Welcome back to Alien Love Stories. Tonight I have something to tell you, but promise me you'll listen until the end. Have you ever had a drink so good it nearly destroyed the universe? Honestly, I never imagined my love story would start in a small, dimly lit bar tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. My name's Jake, and I'm just an ordinary bartender. Every day I polish glasses, mix drinks, listen to customers' troubles, and repeat. Nothing unusual. Life was calm, simple, and reassuringly predictable. Until that one Friday night. It was a pleasantly warm evening. As I wiped down the countertop, the bar was buzzing softly with laughter and quiet conversations. The front door chimed as someone entered, and purely out of habit I glanced up, and my heart nearly stopped. Standing there was a girl unlike anyone I'd ever seen. She had shimmering lavender hair with hints of silver, cascading gently down her shoulders. Her skin was a soft shade of pastel pink, subtly glowing under the bar's dim lights. Her eyes, large and captivating, seemed to sparkle like distant galaxies. Her clothes looked futuristic, yet effortlessly stylish, as if she'd stepped out of a sci-fi movie. She approached slowly, gracefully taking a seat right in front of me at the bar. With a slight smile, she looked directly into my eyes and said in a soft, melodic voice, "Can I have your best beer, please?" Her voice echoed slightly, as though traveling from somewhere far beyond Earth. I stood frozen, just staring at her, momentarily forgetting how to function. After an awkward silence, I snapped back to reality and nervously smiled. Right, of course. Coming right up." I stole a quick glance at her while pouring the beer. She was curiously inspecting the bottles lined up behind me. I placed the glass gently on the bar in front of her and couldn't help myself from asking, "Sorry if this sounds rude, but you're not exactly from around here, are you?" She turned and gave a playful laugh. "You're asking if I'm not from Earth?" Well, was it the glowing pink skin or the hair that gave it away? I chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of my head. Both, honestly, but the glowing pink skin mostly. She laughed again, a delightful sound that sent warmth through my chest. Leaning closer, she whispered conspiratorially, "My name's Zara. And yes, you guessed right. I'm not exactly from Earth. You're the first bartender ever to figure it out this quickly, by the way." I raised an eyebrow, trying to sound casual. "I'm Jake. Nice to meet someone from another planet. So what brought you all this way? Just to grab a beer?" Zara took a small sip from the glass, wrinkling her nose slightly. Then reaching into her pocket, she pulled out a tiny glass vial containing a clear silvery liquid that shimmered hypnotically. She held it up between us, smiling shyly. "On my planet, our drinks have a little extra kick. Mind if I add this?" Curiosity got the better of me as I studied the strange, mesmerizing liquid. "If it makes it taste better, knock yourself out." Carefully, Zara added just a few drops into her beer. Instantly, the liquid dissolved, forming a shimmering, galaxy-like swirl that danced in the glass. It was like looking directly into the Milky Way. Zara eagerly lifted the glass and took a long sip. The second she placed the glass down, the entire bar suddenly trembled violently. The lights flickered wildly, bottles rattled, and a wave of shocked murmurs rippled through the crowd. Customers ducked in confusion as glasses crashed to the floor. Clutching the countertop to steady myself, I stared in disbelief at Zara's beer, now glowing intensely. A subtle pulse of energy radiated outward, briefly warping reality before snapping back to normal. Absolute silence followed. Every eye in the bar was locked on Zara and me, filled with astonishment and confusion. Zara's face flushed deep pink as she spoke, clearly embarrassed and worried. Jake, I think I might have just created a really big problem." My eyes widened, pulse racing as I leaned closer and lowered my voice. "Zara, what exactly did you just put in your beer?" Zara hesitated, then softly admitted, "It's called Galaxy Tears, a special substance from my home planet. It's harmless there, but I may have forgotten one tiny detail. When combined with alcohol from Earth, it sort of becomes a bomb capable of destroying the galaxy." Stunned, I stared at her blankly, processing what I'd just heard. Then I let out a breathy laugh, half panicked, half humorous, trying to lighten the mood. So you're saying I just served you an apocalypse cocktail? Wonderful, Zara. Guess that officially cancels happy hour forever. She tried to smile back, but her eyes filled with genuine worry and guilt. I'm so sorry, Jake. What do we do now? I glanced anxiously at the still softly glowing glass on the counter, feeling an odd mixture of dread and excitement. Taking a deep breath, I looked into Zara's galaxy-filled eyes and answered quietly, I have no idea, Zara. But something tells me this is just the beginning of a very, very long story. What about you? If the one you loved accidentally turned your drink into a galaxy-ending weapon, would you stay with them anyway? Comment down below. Don't leave just yet. This story is just beginning. I stared blankly at Zara, my heart racing. Her soft pink glow had turned even brighter, a clear sign she was genuinely stressed out. Okay, wait. Let's slow down, I whispered urgently, glancing around the bar. Thankfully, people seemed to be returning to their drinks and conversations, assuming the shaking was just a minor earthquake or some weird prank. No one appeared aware that my charming alien customer might have inadvertently initiated the apocalypse. Zara took a shaky breath and nodded nervously, fiddling with the now empty vial in her hands. Jake, please don't panic, she said softly. We just have to stay calm, because any strong emotional reaction could trigger the beer into, blowing everything up. I stared at her, eyes wide. Zara, you literally just told me not to panic and then said the beer might blow up the galaxy. How exactly am I supposed to stay calm? Zara gave me a sheepish, apologetic smile, clearly embarrassed. You're right. Sorry, my fault entirely, she admitted quietly. I'll fix this, I promise. I took another deep breath, trying to settle my nerves, my bartender instincts kicking in as I leaned closer across the counter. All right, tell me exactly what we're dealing with here. What's this galaxy tears thing again? Zara hesitated briefly, carefully choosing her words. It's a rare, powerful substance from my home planet, Orion 6. It absorbs emotional energy and amplifies it exponentially. On my world, we use it in small doses to celebrate special moments. Unfortunately, when it's combined with alcohol from your planet, the emotional amplification becomes dangerously unstable. I shook my head slowly, half amused and half terrified. So we now have an emotionally unstable beer sitting right here in front of us? Pretty much, Zara whispered, glancing anxiously at the glass. It continued to softly glow and pulse, looking oddly innocent despite its catastrophic potential. Can't we just throw it out? I suggested hesitantly. Zara's eyes widened, quickly shaking her head. Definitely not. Any sudden disruption, pouring it out, dropping it, even too much shaking, could trigger a catastrophic chain reaction. Basically, the beer is now emotionally sensitive. It's safer if we just leave it alone for now. I laughed bitterly, trying to conceal my own anxiety. Great. My bar is now hosting the world's most emotionally fragile beer. What's next? A cocktail with abandonment issues? Zara smiled shyly, clearly relieved by my attempt at humor. Your sarcasm actually helps. It eases tension. The beer is responding positively. See? It glows softer when we're calm and happy. I leaned back, observing carefully. She was right. The liquid's pulsing had slowed, turning into a gentle, comforting shimmer whenever Zara and I spoke calmly or laughed softly. So, humor and calmness are the keys, I concluded, beginning to strategize. Then we have a plan. Stay calm, avoid panic, make jokes whenever possible. Zara smiled genuinely for the first time since the crisis began, her eyes sparkling warmly. I knew choosing your bar was the right decision. You're handling this amazingly well, Jake. I raised an eyebrow playfully. Well, handling emotionally unstable customers in catastrophic situations is literally my job description. I just didn't realize it would be quite this literal. We both laughed softly, and as our eyes met again, I felt a subtle warmth spread through me. Despite the absurdity of our current predicament, I couldn't deny that I felt strangely comfortable and safe with her. You know, Zara, I said gently, leaning in slightly, I've never met anyone who could accidentally threaten the entire universe on a first date. Her face turned an adorable shade of brighter pink, and she smiled shyly. To be fair, Jake, I didn't realize this was a date until you just said that. I paused, my face flushing instantly. Ah, well, that slipped out. Sorry. No, don't apologize, Zara interrupted, laughing softly. It's actually kind of nice. You humans are oddly charming, even under the threat of galactic destruction. I couldn't help but grin, shaking my head in amused disbelief. Thanks, I think. Trust me, it's a compliment, Zara assured me. Her smile faded slightly as she leaned closer, whispering softly. But I'm serious. We really must find a permanent solution soon. This calmness is good, but it's temporary. I nodded, quickly becoming serious again. Agreed. But how do we even begin to solve a crisis that involves beer, emotional instability, and alien chemistry? Zara took a deep breath, considering carefully. I know someone who might help. He's an expert in intergalactic chemistry, but there's a small catch. I braced myself. Go on. She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. He's my ex-boyfriend. I stared at her blankly for a second, before breaking into a helpless laugh. Of course he is. What better way to solve an emotionally unstable crisis than by bringing an ex into the mix? Zara laughed too, covering her face. I know, right? Awkward doesn't even begin to describe it. At least we're keeping things interesting, I joked weakly, rubbing my temples. Zara reached out softly, touching my hand in gentle reassurance. Instantly, the beer glowed brightly for a split second before returning to normal. Our eyes widened simultaneously. Oh no, Zara whispered. What does that mean? I asked nervously, looking at her. Zara swallowed hard, clearly embarrassed again. It means the beer senses our attraction to each other. Positive emotions amplify it faster. I groaned, dropping my head onto the bar dramatically. Fantastic. Now we have beer that explodes if we like each other too much? Zara laughed softly, squeezing my hand once before pulling away. We'll fix this, Jake. Together. I looked up at her, smiling weakly but genuinely. Together sounds good. She nodded, glancing once more at the softly glowing glass. For now, let's just keep things casual, she whispered shyly, blushing brightly. I promise no more emotional fireworks. I smirked lightly, unable to resist the teasing opportunity. No promises there, Zara. You're literally out of this world. I can't help it. She laughed, rolling her eyes playfully. The beer shimmered gently, seemingly content for the moment. Zara and I sat silently for a few minutes, staring at the softly glowing beer in a kind of tense amazement. It felt as if we were handling a fragile ticking bomb, except this bomb had a distinctly fruity aroma and an alarming tendency to pulse brighter whenever we glanced at each other. Jake, Zara whispered quietly, breaking the silence, we should probably hide this beer before someone gets suspicious. I nodded vigorously. Yeah, good idea. Exploding galaxies aren't exactly good for business. Carefully, I reached under the counter and pulled out an empty cardboard box labeled Extra Cups. Zara gently placed the glowing glass inside, and I carefully tucked it away beneath the bar. We both exhaled in relief, then stared at each other and laughed nervously. Great, I joked dryly. We just put the universe's most dangerous beverage in a box marked Extra Cups. What could possibly go wrong? Zara smiled apologetically. To be fair, I didn't exactly expect my first night on Earth to involve cosmic-level hazards. I chuckled softly, shaking my head. Yeah, well, that's usually reserved for the second date. She blushed immediately, biting her lip shyly. You're assuming there'll be a second date? I shrugged playfully. Considering we've already narrowly avoided destroying reality, I figured it can't get much worse. Just then, a customer called loudly from across the bar. Hey, Jake, can I get another round over here? Coming right up, I called back, turning toward Zara with a reassuring smile. Can you give me a minute? Try not to accidentally blow up the place while I'm gone. Zara rolled her eyes good-naturedly. Very funny. I'll do my best. I grinned as I walked toward the customer, trying to maintain an air of complete normalcy. But as I filled the glasses, my mind raced. I had no idea how we defused Zara's glowing Galaxy Tears beer, or if the solution even existed. The thought of having an alien girlfriend had never crossed my mind. Yet here I was, serving drinks while juggling an intergalactic crisis. After a few minutes of distracted pouring, I returned to Zara's seat to find her gazing worriedly beneath the counter. "What's wrong?" I asked cautiously. She bit her lip, whispering nervously, "Jake, don't panic," but the beer's glowing brighter. I quickly ducked down to check. Sure enough, through the gaps of the cardboard box, intense purple light pulsed rhythmically, casting an eerie glow. "Okay," I whispered urgently, rising to meet Zara's concerned gaze. "What's causing it now? We weren't even talking." Zara hesitated before murmuring, her voice shaking slightly. "It doesn't only respond to our emotions. It also responds to proximity. The closer we are physically, the stronger the reaction." I laughed weakly, disbelief clouding my expression. "Perfect. Now our beer has personal space issues." Zara smiled softly, though her eyes stayed serious. "We need professional help, immediately." I glanced around, making sure nobody overheard us. "You really think contacting your ex-boyfriend is our only option?" She sighed heavily, nodding reluctantly. "He's the top expert on intergalactic chemical reactions. Trust me, I wouldn't suggest this if there were any other way." "All right," I finally agreed, feeling a pang of jealousy despite myself. "Let's call him. But one rule, no rekindling old feelings while saving the universe." She laughed softly, visibly relieved. "Agreed. Believe me, that's the last thing I want." Zara tapped a small bracelet on her wrist, causing a holographic interface to appear out of thin air. She pressed a few glowing symbols, and a moment later, a man's face materialized before us, shimmering softly in translucent blue. He had sleek, dark blue hair, ice blue eyes, and a smile that was entirely too charming. "Zara," he said smoothly, "didn't expect to hear from you again, especially after you ghosted me." Zara winced slightly, clearly embarrassed. "Nice to see you too, Rax. Listen, we have an urgent problem." Rax glanced casually at me, eyebrow raised in mild amusement. "Is the human bartender part of this urgent problem, or just moral support?" "I'm Jake," I interrupted dryly, matching his gaze. "And yes, I'm deeply entangled in this urgent issue. Zara accidentally weaponized my beer." Rax laughed incredulously, shaking his head. Typical Zara, always turning mundane activities into life-threatening adventures. Zara blushed even brighter, looking utterly mortified. "Can we focus, please? How do we neutralize galaxy tears once it's reacted with Earth alcohol?" Rax's expression became instantly serious. "Oh, galaxy tears mixed with alcohol from Earth? Zara, you might have just accidentally created the most unstable explosive known to our civilization." "Yeah, we noticed," I said impatiently. "Now how do we fix it?" He studied Zara carefully. "You're not going to like this." She frowned deeply. "Just tell us." "The galaxy tears react to intense emotions, especially attraction or love. You either neutralize the emotional triggers, or you wait until the energy naturally stabilizes over a few days." I shook my head quickly. "A few days? That's impossible. My bar opens every day." "Well," Rax said calmly, a mischievous glint in his eyes, "then you better get good at controlling your feelings. Can you two manage to keep your distance and suppress your attraction?" I felt Zara's gaze linger on me, our eyes locking briefly before quickly looking away. "We'll manage," I muttered. Rax smirked knowingly. "Good luck with that." The hologram faded, leaving Zara and me alone in tense silence. Finally I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Looks like keeping our distance just became mandatory." She nodded sadly. "I'm really sorry, Jake." "No apologies needed," I reassured her gently, forcing a smile. "It's a first-date hiccup. Everyone has those, right?" She smiled weakly, appreciation shining in her eyes. "Maybe not everyone risks planetary annihilation, but I appreciate your optimism." Just as we shared a quiet laugh, footsteps approached. It was Nate, my regular customer, grinning drunkenly. "Hey Jake, what's in that special beer you served earlier?" It looked amazing. "Mind if I try it?" My heart nearly stopped as Nate reached toward the glowing box beneath the bar. "Whoa! I quickly jumped between Nate and the box. That batch is, expired. Bad hops, you know? Nate squinted suspiciously. Expired? Then why's it glowing? I paused, searching for a reasonable explanation. Zara stepped in smoothly, smiling sweetly. It's an experimental brew. Terrible taste, really bitter. Nate looked disappointed but nodded slowly. All right, if you say so. He stumbled away, muttering about glowing beer being wasted on bad recipes. I exhaled shakily, meeting Zara's grateful eyes. Nice save. She nodded, still nervous but noticeably more confident. We'll get through this, Jake. Somehow. I smiled gently, not daring to move closer. Yeah, we will. And after all this is over, maybe we'll even get that second date? She laughed quietly, blushing again. Let's save the galaxy first, okay? Deal, I whispered warmly, feeling hope creep back into my chest, despite the dangerous glowing secret beneath my bar. The bar finally cleared out around midnight, leaving Zara and me alone with our glowing secret hidden beneath the counter. Zara carefully checked on the box, then breathed a soft sigh of relief. Still stable. For now, she whispered. I nodded, leaning against the bar and rubbing my eyes. Great. So what's the next step? Zara hesitated, her expression uncertain. We should meet Rax in person. The hologram won't cut it. He needs direct access to the beer. I raised an eyebrow, my voice tinged with sarcasm. You sure that's necessary? Rax didn't exactly seem thrilled to help. Zara smiled apologetically, shrugging gently. He's actually very nice. Just a bit protective. Anyway, he'll know exactly how to diffuse the reaction. Fine, I conceded reluctantly. Where do we find him? Your planet, Orion 6? She shook her head. No, fortunately, he's stationed on Earth right now. But you're not going to like his cover job. I groaned, bracing myself. Go ahead, Zara. Hit me with it. She paused awkwardly, biting her lip. He works at an ice cream parlor called Galactic Scoops. I stared blankly at her before laughing in disbelief. You're kidding, right? A genius alien scientist scooping ice cream? She chuckled softly. Believe me, Jake, it's not his first choice either. I smirked, shaking my head. All right, Galactic Scoops it is. Let's grab the beer and head over there now, before it decides to explode. Carefully, Zara lifted the box, and we both moved cautiously toward the exit, locking the bar behind us. The streets were quiet, bathed softly in moonlight. Zara walked close beside me, silent at first. After a moment, she finally spoke, her voice gentle. I'm really sorry about this whole mess, Jake. I glanced at her, smiling softly. Stop apologizing. Honestly, this is the most exciting Friday night I've had in ages. She laughed quietly, her pink glow brightening slightly. You're very strange. Most humans would be running away by now. I shrugged casually. Maybe, but it's not every day an alien walks into my bar and almost destroys the galaxy. That's hard to walk away from. Zara gave a shy smile, gently nudging me. You're impossible. I laughed, feeling warmth spread inside me, despite knowing we had to keep our emotions carefully contained. After several minutes of comfortable silence, we reached Galactic Scoops. The shop was closed, but Zara tapped gently on the glass. Moments later, Rax appeared, opening the door with a skeptical expression. Wow, you actually came, he said, glancing briefly at me. And you brought the bartender. I have a name, Afimon, I replied dryly. Jake, remember? Rax smiled politely, offering a handshake. Jake, nice to officially meet you. Welcome to Galactic Scoops, home of the most advanced ice cream technology on Earth. I glanced skeptically around the brightly colored parlor. Advanced ice cream technology? Seriously? Don't ask, Rax said, sighing. It's complicated. Zara carefully placed the glowing box on a nearby table. Rax, we need your help. Rax's expression turned serious. He opened the box cautiously, observing the swirling, luminescent liquid carefully. Oh, it's worse than I thought. I frowned anxiously. What exactly does worse mean? Rax spoke calmly, maintaining clarity. The beer has absorbed far more emotional energy than anticipated. If this explodes, it won't just affect Earth, it'll destabilize the emotional fabric of several nearby galaxies. I exchanged a worried look with Zara. Great. Now we're emotionally responsible for multiple galaxies. Rax chuckled softly, then gently lifted the glass, studying it from every angle. There's only one solution. We must neutralize the beer's emotional charge by reversing the reaction. How exactly do we do that? Zara asked softly. Rax paused briefly, carefully choosing his words. The beer feeds off attraction and affection. To neutralize it, we need a counter-emotion. Complete indifference. Zara's eyes widened. How is that possible? Jake and I, well, we clearly have feelings. That's part of the problem. Rax shook his head, glancing between us sympathetically. You two won't be able to do it yourselves. We'll need help from someone completely emotionless, someone unaffected by human or alien feelings. I raised my eyebrow, confused. And where do we find someone like that? Rax smiled knowingly. Jake, do you happen to own a robot? Zara and I exchanged confused glances. A robot? No. Wait, I realized suddenly. I do have something close. Zara looked surprised. You do? Yeah, I replied sheepishly. There's a karaoke machine at my bar that's completely monotone. Customers always joke it's emotionless. Rax's eyes brightened. Perfect. A non-sentient AI system is exactly what we need. Zara stared blankly at Rax. You're suggesting we let Jake's karaoke machine sing to the beer? Rax nodded seriously. Precisely. An emotionless performance should neutralize the beer's charged state. I groaned, hiding my face. So, let me get this straight. We're relying on karaoke to prevent universal destruction? Zara smiled gently, nudging me. Could be worse. How exactly could it be worse? I asked sarcastically. Rax grinned mischievously. It could have been my singing. I sighed, shaking my head in amusement. Fine. Karaoke it is. Rax nodded, closing the box carefully. We must hurry. The beer's emotional charge is growing stronger every minute. We quickly thanked Rax and exited the ice cream parlor, Zara carrying our dangerous secret once more. Walking back to my bar, Zara looked at me gently. Jake, you're taking all this incredibly well. I laughed softly. Honestly, Zara, I'm still stuck on karaoke saving the galaxy. She giggled quietly, the sound soothing despite the crisis. This might sound odd, but I'm glad it's you who ended up in this mess with me. I smiled warmly, keeping my voice gentle and calm. Same here. Our eyes met briefly, but we quickly glanced away, remembering the danger. After a short silence, Zara spoke again, shyly. After this is all over, assuming the galaxy survives, do you still want that second date? I paused, smiling warmly at her. Absolutely. But maybe next time? No explosive beverages? She laughed, her soft pink glow brightening the evening air. Deal. By the time Zara and I reached the bar, it was past midnight. The streets were empty, the city asleep. We hurried through the back entrance, careful not to disturb the fragile glass hidden inside its innocent cardboard box. I quickly moved to the karaoke machine, a bulky old thing tucked in the corner. Zara placed the glowing beer on a stool nearby. She stepped back cautiously, watching me with quiet amusement. Jake, Zara whispered playfully, when you woke up today, did you ever imagine your karaoke machine would save multiple galaxies? I chuckled, shaking my head. Honestly, Zara, when I woke up today, my biggest worry was running out of peanuts. She giggled softly, her eyes sparkling gently under the dim lights. But our laughter faded quickly as the glass began pulsing brightly again. All right, I said urgently, turning the karaoke machine on. Time for our emotionless superstar to shine. The machine's screen flickered to life, its robotic voice droning monotonously. Select your song. I glanced at Zara, whispering nervously, Any requests? Zara bit her lip thoughtfully. Maybe something slow and calm, emotionless, remember? I quickly tapped the screen, selecting a song titled Neutral Elevator Music Volume, Uchunju. Almost instantly, the machine began emitting dull, monotone sounds so lifeless I could feel my eyelids getting heavy. Zara gave me an amused look. This is the most boring thing I've ever heard. It's perfect. The glowing beer pulsed once, twice. Then gradually the brightness began to fade. Zara smiled hopefully. It's working! We exchanged relieved glances, barely daring to breathe as the liquid inside the glass turned dull, losing its threatening glow. I sighed softly, shoulders relaxing. But just as I moved closer to Zara, about to celebrate our victory, a sharp knock echoed from the bar's front door. We froze instantly, hearts racing. Zara whispered urgently, "Are you expecting someone?" "No," I murmured nervously. "It's almost 2 a.m." The knock grew louder, more insistent. A voice called through the door, stern and commanding. "Open up! Galactic Authority! Sector Earth Enforcement! We've tracked an unauthorized intergalactic reaction here." Zara's eyes widened in panic. "Oh no, they found us." "Galactic Authority," I whispered in confusion. "What's that?" "Think of them as cosmic police," Zara replied anxiously. "They control dangerous technology and intergalactic threats." "Perfect," I muttered dryly, glancing quickly around. "Quick, hide!" Zara ducked behind the bar just as the door burst open dramatically. Two tall figures stepped in, dressed in sleek silver uniforms, eyes scanning the room sharply. Both had pale blue skin, pointed ears, and distinctly stern expressions. "You there, human bartender!" One of them barked at me. "Where is the unauthorized weaponized beverage?" I tried to look innocent. I have no idea what you're talking about." The second alien narrowed her eyes suspiciously, raising a scanner that beeped loudly in my direction. Deception detected, emotions elevated. "Sorry," I joked nervously. "Always been bad at lying under pressure." The alien stepped forward aggressively. "This situation is serious. Where's the alien accomplice?" "Alien accomplice?" I feigned confusion, laughing awkwardly. "It's just me, alone, playing really bad karaoke." From behind the bar, Zara accidentally knocked over a small glass. It crashed loudly, shattering the silence. Both officers instantly turned toward the noise. "Come out now," the first alien commanded. Slowly Zara stood, hands raised apologetically. "It's me you want. Jake's not involved. He's innocent." My heart pounded wildly. "Zara, what are you doing?" She met my eyes gently. "Jake, I can't let you get hurt because of my mistake." One officer approached Zara, speaking coldly. "You're under arrest for unauthorized use of galaxy tears. You'll come with us immediately." "No!" I shouted instinctively, stepping forward. "She didn't mean any harm. It was an accident." The officer stared at me, unamused. "Step back, human. Interfering will only worsen your situation." But I stood my ground firmly, heart racing. "Take me instead. It was my bar, my beer. I'm responsible." Zara's eyes widened, touched and frightened at once. "Jake, don't—" The officer looked between us suspiciously. "The emotional bond is strong. It explains the instability. Take them both." Suddenly, the karaoke machine emitted a loud beep, startling everyone. The monotone music had stopped, replaced by the machine's robotic voice declaring loudly, "Song complete. Emotion successfully neutralized." We all turned quickly toward the beer. It was completely dark, inert, no glowing, no pulsing. Zara breathed in sharply, whispering in disbelief, "It's neutralized." The officers exchanged surprised glances, checking their scanners. The first officer frowned, clearly baffled. "The weapon is inactive. Threat status removed." The second alien turned toward us with narrowed eyes. "It seems you've resolved the crisis yourselves, human. Impressive, but be warned, next time there will be consequences." Without further explanation, they turned sharply and marched out the door, vanishing quickly into the darkness. For a moment, Zara and I stood in the stunned silence. Then I let out a deep breath, leaning against the bar heavily. "Did we just get saved by karaoke?" I asked in disbelief. Zara nodded, half laughing, half crying. "We definitely did." Slowly, we both began laughing, the tension melting away into relief. After a quiet pause, Zara stepped close, gently taking my hand. Her voice soft, she said, "Jake, thank you for protecting me. I won't forget that." I smiled warmly, my heart suddenly racing again. "Anytime, Zara. Apparently, I'm willing to risk intergalactic imprisonment for you." She laughed softly, eyes sparkling warmly. Careful, emotions can be dangerous around here. I chuckled, gently squeezing her hand. It's a risk I'm willing to take. After the Galactic Authority agents left, the bar returned to an eerie silence. Zara and I stood quietly for a moment, still processing everything that had happened. Finally, she released my hand gently, her eyes glowing warmly. Jake, you realize we just narrowly escaped intergalactic imprisonment, right? I chuckled weakly, running a hand through my hair. Believe me, it hasn't quite sunk in yet. She glanced toward the karaoke machine, now silent and dark. It's strange. Who would have guessed that boring elevator music was the key to saving the galaxy? I laughed softly, shaking my head. Certainly not me, but at least the universe is safe. For now. Zara nodded, smiling softly. Thanks to you. I owe you, Jake. You don't owe me anything, I reassured her gently. Honestly, I'm just glad we didn't destroy reality. That kind of thing looks terrible on your resume. She giggled quietly, and the sound made my chest feel warm again. But suddenly Zara paused, frowning slightly. Jake, do you smell something odd? I sniffed the air cautiously. At first, nothing. But then, a distinct, fruity aroma drifted past my nose. My eyes widened. Oh no, Zara, please tell me that's not... We both turned sharply toward the cardboard box beneath the counter. A faint purple glow pulsed weakly, slowly gaining strength. Zara stared in disbelief. Impossible. It was neutralized. How can it still be active? I took a deep breath, anxiety rising again. Maybe the karaoke machine only temporarily paused the reaction. Zara's face fell, panic creeping into her eyes. Jake, the emotional charge, it's returning. That means... I finished for her, dread filling my voice. It means our feelings for each other might be too strong for the beer to handle. She blushed slightly, nodding nervously. Exactly. We quickly pulled out the glowing beer, now pulsing faster and brighter. It vibrated slightly as though warning us of impending disaster. Zara looked at me urgently. We have only two options. Either we destroy the beer, risking an instant explosion, or we completely erase the emotional bond triggering it. I shook my head fiercely. Erase our emotions? Zara, how could we possibly do that? She sighed softly, eyes filled with regret. There's a device aboard my ship that temporarily suppresses emotional attachment. It's painful but harmless, like rebooting your heart. I frowned deeply. You mean we'd forget our feelings? Only temporarily, Zara whispered. But yes, our emotions would vanish, instantly stopping the beer's reaction. My heart sank. It felt wrong, like betraying myself. Zara, isn't there any other way? She gently touched my shoulder. Jake, I hate this too, but our love is literally explosive. One slip and we could harm billions of innocent lives. I met her eyes, feeling conflicted and frustrated. Finally, I nodded reluctantly. All right, where's your ship? She smiled weakly. Nearby. I kept it cloaked in an alley behind the bar. We carefully wrapped the glowing beer in protective padding and slipped quietly out the back door. Zara led me into a shadowy alley, then pressed a tiny button on her wrist bracelet. Instantly, a sleek, egg-shaped craft shimmered into view. My jaw dropped slightly. Wow, you parked this behind my bar? She smiled sheepishly. Sorry, I didn't think I'd need it again so soon. We hurried inside, placing the beer into a secure chamber. Zara quickly activated a panel covered in glowing symbols. Within seconds, two circular, metallic pads lit up, humming gently. She pointed toward them. Step on the pad. When activated, it'll temporarily suppress our emotions. I hesitated, sadness clouding my expression. Will we even remember we cared? Eventually, yes, Zara whispered softly. But at first, we'll just feel indifferent. I sighed heavily, taking my place opposite her. Our eyes locked, heavy with unspoken emotion. Zara smiled gently, her voice barely above a whisper. Ready? I smiled weakly back, heart aching. No, but let's do it anyway. Zara tapped the control. Instantly, a cool energy enveloped us both. I felt warmth drain from my chest, replaced by calm detachment. Emotions that burned fiercely moments before faded into a quiet, neutral stillness. I looked at Zara blankly. Did it work? She nodded calmly. It seems so. Let's check the beer. We approached the glowing liquid cautiously. To our relief, the pulsing was slowing, gradually losing its intensity. Perfect, Zara said softly, her voice flat and clinical. The emotional suppression was successful. But then something unexpected happened. As the glow faded completely, the beer began shaking violently. Zara's eyes widened, calmness fracturing. No, that's not supposed to happen. Suddenly, the glass cracked loudly, energy streaming outward in bright, uncontrolled arcs. A mechanical voice from the control panel announced calmly, "Warning, emotional instability detected. Immediate evacuation recommended." I stared at Zara, confusion replacing my detachment. I thought our emotions were suppressed? She quickly examined the panel, frowning deeply. They were, but the beer reacted differently. The sudden loss of emotional energy destabilized it further. It's going critical. I grabbed Zara's hand instinctively. We have to evacuate. No, Zara shouted urgently. If it explodes, millions will be affected. We have one last chance. I must stabilize it directly. How? I demanded. She turned sharply, facing me. I have to reconnect to my feelings. A pure emotional bond can safely absorb the energy. My eyes widened in horror. But Zara, that might kill you. She smiled gently, eyes softening despite the danger. Trust me, Jake, it's the only way. Without hesitation, she disabled the emotional suppressor. Instantly, her eyes filled with tears, warmth flooding her expression again. Zara, wait, I shouted. But it was too late. She reached toward the beer, glowing brighter than ever. A powerful energy surged around her, illuminating the ship. Zara gasped softly, trembling from the emotional strain. I moved quickly, grabbing her free hand. Warmth rushed into me as my emotions returned instantly. Fear, affection, longing, all overwhelming but perfect. Jake, she whispered, tears streaming gently. You shouldn't. I'm not letting you do this alone, I replied fiercely. Our feelings connected powerfully, pure and intense. Slowly, the beer's unstable glow merged with our emotional bond, becoming calm and stable. The explosive energy faded gently into warm, harmless light. Breathing deeply, Zara and I stared in relief. Crisis narrowly avoided again, this time by embracing emotion rather than hiding from it. She squeezed my hand gently, her voice shaking. You risked your life again. Why? I smiled softly, heart finally clear and certain. Because Zara, some things are worth any risk. After the intense glow faded, Zara and I stood silently aboard her ship, breathing deeply as we recovered from the shock. I squeezed her hand gently, still astonished we'd somehow managed to stabilize the explosive beverage using nothing but raw emotion. Finally, Zara broke the silence, her voice gentle and amazed. Jake, we actually did it. Yeah, I exhaled shakily. I'm still not sure how. But remind me never to serve you beer again. She laughed softly, leaning closer. Believe me, I'm officially done with earth drinks. I chuckled softly, relieved to feel the tension finally slipping away. Yet as Zara began guiding her ship gently back toward the ground, a quiet warning beep sounded from the control panel. She glanced down cautiously, her eyes widening again. Oh no! I leaned forward, instantly worried. What is it now? She tapped a screen quickly, concern darkening her features. The energy release. It didn't vanish entirely. We stabilized it, yes, but the excess energy spread through Earth's atmosphere. It might have caused side effects. What kind of side effects? I asked nervously. She hesitated slightly. Imagine billions of people suddenly experiencing mild intoxication all at once. Emotional instability, confusion. Basically, the whole world feels slightly tipsy. My jaw dropped slightly. Wait, Zara, you're telling me we accidentally made Earth drunk? She winced apologetically. Not exactly drunk, just mildly buzzed. Hopefully it'll wear off quickly. I sighed deeply, shaking my head. Great. We saved the galaxy. But my planet has a hangover. Zara glanced at the monitors, gently landing the ship behind my bar again. We stepped carefully outside, immediately noticing something very strange. The street was filling with people stumbling about, laughing loudly, and even singing off-key. A man walked past us, smiling warmly. Hey, you two! Wonderful evening, isn't it? Can't remember why, but it just feels great. I looked at Zara incredulously. Yep, Earth is officially drunk. She nodded weakly. This will be interesting. Together, we moved carefully through the crowd toward the bar. As we entered, Nate, my regular customer, was sitting alone at a table, talking animatedly to no one. Nate, I asked carefully, are you all right? He turned, eyes bright and unfocused. Jake, buddy, I've been having the best conversation. Did you know your chairs have fascinating opinions? I glanced at Zara helplessly. This is worse than I thought. She touched my arm gently. The good news is it should wear off within a few hours. The energy was dispersed thinly. That's reassuring, I murmured dryly. Suddenly, the TV above the bar switched channels by itself, flashing chaotic images. A respected news anchor was giggling uncontrollably, reporting nonsense stories. World leaders were hugging each other enthusiastically during a press conference. Even animals at the local zoo were acting strangely affectionate. Zara watched in astonishment. I'm so sorry, Jake. This isn't exactly how I imagined spending our first night together. I smiled softly at her. Honestly, Zara, it's memorable. Besides, this might be good for humanity. Everyone seems pretty relaxed. She laughed quietly, leaning closer. I suppose you're right. Still, I'll fix this. I promise. How? I asked cautiously. She hesitated thoughtfully. We can reverse engineer the emotional release. We need another substance. Something to ground emotional energy safely. Like coffee. I raised an eyebrow, surprised. Coffee? Seriously? She nodded confidently. Caffeine has natural grounding properties. We just need large quantities to disperse throughout the atmosphere. Large quantities? I repeated. Zara, do you realize how much coffee that would require? She grinned sheepishly. Possibly thousands of gallons. I stared blankly at her. So after nearly destroying reality with beer, our brilliant solution is flooding the atmosphere with coffee? Exactly, Zara replied, smiling optimistically. All right, I sighed deeply. At least it's non-explosive. I know just the guy who can help. We quickly headed toward the back room, where my friend Marcus managed the local coffee distribution. I called him urgently, hoping he wasn't too affected by our accidental global intoxication. Marcus answered immediately, his voice suspiciously cheerful. Jake, what's up, man? Tonight feels amazing. Are you feeling this too? Marcus, listen carefully, I spoke clearly, calmly. I need your entire coffee inventory right now. He laughed loudly, confused but enthusiastic. You got it. This is so random, but sure. I exhaled in relief. Thanks. Bring everything to the bar immediately. Within minutes, Marcus arrived with several large trucks filled with bags of coffee beans. Zara began working quickly, using advanced technology from her ship to convert the coffee into a gaseous form. Within half an hour, the mixture was ready. Zara activated a small device, releasing an invisible, harmless vapor into the atmosphere. We stood outside anxiously, waiting. Gradually, the bizarre behavior faded. People stopped laughing for no reason. Animals calmed down. The news anchor stopped giggling mid-sentence, looking around embarrassed. Marcus rubbed his temples, confused. Jake, did I just give you my entire coffee inventory? I smiled weakly. Yeah, I'll explain later. You saved the day, though. Marcus shook his head, confused but amused before leaving quietly. Zara glanced at me, eyes gentle. Crisis averted, again. I nodded slowly, relief flooding through me. For now, but remind me, Zara, next date, maybe no beverages involved at all? She smiled softly, her eyes glowing warmly. Agreed. How about we just go for a nice boring walk? Perfect, I replied warmly. As long as you promise not to accidentally endanger reality again. She giggled quietly, taking my hand gently. No promises, Jake. I laughed softly, squeezing her hand tightly. The sky was calm, the world sober again, and somehow, despite all the chaos, everything felt right. It was dawn by the time Zara and I finally got a moment to breathe. We sat quietly on the rooftop of my bar, watching as soft hues of orange and pink broke through the fading night sky. The chaos had passed. The city had returned to normal, completely unaware of how close they'd come to permanent cosmic hangover. Zara gently leaned her head against my shoulder, sighing softly. Jake, is life always this exhausting on Earth? I chuckled lightly, smiling down at her. Honestly, number before you arrived, my biggest excitement was karaoke night. You've definitely spiced things up. She smiled, looking slightly embarrassed. I really didn't mean to cause so much trouble. It feels like I owe Earth a huge apology. Maybe, I admitted playfully, but you have to admit, it was unforgettable. She laughed softly, eyes glowing warmly in the dawn light. Definitely unforgettable. After a peaceful moment, Zara turned to me seriously. There's something we need to discuss. Even though we've reversed the global intoxication, the galaxy tears energy is still unstable. If we leave it unaddressed, there's a chance it could resurface. I sighed dramatically. Great. So our emotional beer might cause more trouble? She nodded gently. Yes, but I think I've found a permanent solution. I raised an eyebrow cautiously. Go on. On Orion 6, Zara explained, we use an ancient method involving deep meditation and harmonic crystals to neutralize emotional energy. It safely grounds excess emotion permanently. I stared blankly at her. Meditation and crystals? Zara, I'm a bartender, not exactly trained in intergalactic yoga. She giggled, nudging me softly. You don't need training, just trust. I'll guide you through it. All right, I said reluctantly, smiling. If crystals can save the galaxy, I'll give it a shot. We quickly returned to Zara's ship. Inside, she pulled out a small box filled with softly glowing, delicate crystals of various colors. They shimmered gently, radiating a calm, soothing energy. Beautiful, I whispered, genuinely amazed. Zara handed me one carefully. Hold this crystal. It synchronizes with your emotional state. Together, we'll channel all remaining emotional energy from the galaxy tears into these crystals. They'll neutralize it safely. Sitting cross-legged across from her, I followed Zara's instructions carefully. She took a deep breath, closing her eyes. Relax your mind, Jake. Think about moments when you felt peaceful, calm, truly happy. I took a slow breath, focusing quietly. Images drifted into my mind. Lazy afternoons, sunsets on quiet beaches, late nights spent laughing with friends. Gradually, the crystal began glowing warmly in my palm, reacting to my positive emotions. Zara smiled gently. It's working. Now focus deeper. Direct your calm energy toward the crystal. I concentrated harder, feeling my pulse slow, calmness flooding me. Across from me, Zara's crystal was also glowing, pulsing gently in perfect harmony with mine. Then something astonishing happened. Between us, the leftover glass of galaxy tears, previously dark and inert, began glowing softly again, rising slowly into the air. This time the glow was peaceful and calm, completely stable. Jake, Zara whispered excitedly, it's happening. Our combined emotions are neutralizing the galaxy tears permanently. We watched in awe as the unstable energy left the glass, merging into our crystals, the colors growing brighter, more vivid. The remaining liquid evaporated harmlessly, leaving only a soft, pleasant fragrance lingering behind. Slowly, everything quieted. Zara opened her eyes, smiling warmly. We did it, Jake. It's over. I exhaled deeply, feeling relief wash over me. Finally, no more surprise cosmic disasters? Zara giggled quietly. Hopefully not. I leaned back, examining my glowing crystal curiously. So what happens with these now? Zara smiled gently. They're safe now, filled with peaceful energy. Traditionally, we keep them as symbols of emotional harmony. I nodded thoughtfully, holding mine tightly. I like that idea. She smiled softly, placing her crystal in my hand alongside mine. Keep this one too, something to remember me by. I frowned slightly, looking up. Remember you by? Her expression turned slightly sad. Jake, the Galactic Authority won't just forget this incident. Eventually, they'll insist I return to Orion 6. I've risked too much here already. My heart sank instantly. Zara! She touched my cheek gently, eyes glistening softly. Believe me, I don't want to go, but staying puts you and your planet at risk. That's something I can't accept. I sighed deeply, voice soft with sadness. When do you have to leave? She hesitated briefly. Soon, probably within a day or two. I squeezed her hand gently, determined. Then we'll make every moment count. Zara nodded slowly, smiling bravely through tears. Agreed. No more crises, just peaceful, normal moments. Exactly, I promised gently. And if anyone deserves a break, it's us. She laughed softly, wiping her eyes. You're right about that. We returned quietly to the bar, holding hands comfortably as the city slowly awakened. Zara glanced around softly, smiling faintly. Your planet really is beautiful, Jake. I'll miss this place. I squeezed her hand reassuringly. Well, Earth will miss you too, especially me. She leaned close, resting her head against my shoulder again, her voice soft and thoughtful. Do you ever wonder if maybe we were meant to meet? Despite the chaos, I smiled warmly. I think so. Even though things got complicated, meeting you feels like destiny. Zara looked up gently, eyes softening. Destiny. I like that. We stood together, quietly watching as the sunrise bathed the city in warm golden light. And for a moment, everything felt peaceful, perfect, exactly how it should. After our emotional morning on the rooftop, Zara and I spent the day quietly. We avoided trouble, avoided intergalactic authorities, and most importantly, avoided any beverages with questionable ingredients. For the first time since meeting Zara, things felt normal. As evening approached, I quietly prepared the bar for opening, trying not to dwell on the fact that Zara would soon have to leave. The thought weighed heavily on my mind. When the first few customers arrived, I forced a cheerful smile and focused on pouring drinks. Zara sat at the bar, quietly observing the human patrons around her. She seemed fascinated by the simplicity of human interactions, carefully noting every laugh, every small gesture. After a while, Nate, the regular who had previously chatted with chairs, approached cautiously. Hey Jake, about last night, did I really talk to furniture? I chuckled gently, nodding sympathetically. Yeah, Nate, you did. Pretty passionately, too. He blushed deeply. Sorry about that. Not sure what got into me. I exchanged a quick glance with Zara, hiding our amusement. No worries. Strange night for everyone. Nate smiled sheepishly and walked off. Zara leaned in, whispering softly, It's remarkable how humans simply carry on after such bizarre events. I smiled gently. We're pretty resilient. Or maybe we're just good at ignoring weirdness. She giggled quietly, eyes sparkling warmly. The bar filled up quickly, buzzing with life, music, and laughter. Zara watched curiously as customers enjoyed their drinks, chatting and relaxing. Suddenly Marcus, the coffee savior, stepped in, holding a brightly wrapped gift box. He approached, smiling awkwardly. Hey Jake, Zara, after yesterday's weirdness, I figured you two could use something simple. It's just regular chocolate, I promise. Nothing explosive. I laughed warmly, accepting the gift. Thanks, Marcus. Much appreciated. Marcus nodded shyly, leaving quickly. Zara looked at the box curiously. Chocolate? I smiled. An Earth specialty, and thankfully, not galaxy-threatening. She smiled, eyes twinkling playfully. Want to share it? Absolutely, I replied warmly. We sat quietly behind the counter, sharing chocolate, savoring the quiet simplicity. Zara closed her eyes, sighing softly in contentment. Your planet really knows how to do comfort food, Jake. I laughed softly. Yeah, it's our specialty. A quiet lull fell over us, and Zara leaned closer, her voice soft, hesitant. Jake, when I return to Orion 6, do you think you'll ever forget about me? I gently took her hand, speaking firmly. Impossible. You're literally unforgettable. She blushed softly, eyes glowing gently. It's strange. We've barely met, but I feel like we've known each other forever. I feel the same, I admitted quietly. Like something brought us together for a reason. Zara nodded slowly. Maybe we were supposed to remind each other how powerful emotions really are, how fragile yet incredible love can be. I squeezed her hand softly. If that's true, mission accomplished. Suddenly, the bar doors swung open dramatically. We looked up sharply, instantly wary. But instead of cosmic police, a tall woman with deep blue hair and sharp features stepped in, dressed elegantly. Her gaze locked directly onto Zara. Zara gasped softly. Mother? My jaw dropped. Your mother? The woman approached calmly, eyes sharp but gentle. Zara, did you truly believe the Galactic Council wouldn't inform me of this little incident? Zara blushed, embarrassed. I'm sorry, Mother. I never meant for things to escalate. Her mother softened, sighing gently. I know, my dear, but unauthorized intergalactic interactions carry severe consequences. The Council demands you return home immediately. My heart sank. Zara squeezed my hand tighter, visibly shaken. Mother, please. Just a little more time. Her mother shook her head gently but firmly. I'm sorry, Zara. The decision is final. I stepped forward impulsively, pleading softly. Ma'am, I know we made mistakes, but Zara risked everything to fix it. Please don't punish her. Zara's mother studied me carefully, her expression unreadable at first. Finally, she spoke gently. You truly care deeply for my daughter, don't you, human? I nodded firmly. More than I ever imagined possible. She smiled faintly. I see that, and I sense your emotions are genuine. She paused, considering carefully before finally speaking again. Perhaps the Council will allow Zara occasional visitation, but you must promise no more incidents. Zara and I exchanged hopeful glances. She quickly nodded, relieved. We promise. Her mother nodded gracefully. Then you may say your goodbyes privately. I'll wait outside. As her mother stepped outside, Zara turned to me, eyes filled with tears. Jake, I didn't expect this to end so suddenly. I cupped her face gently, smiling bravely despite the sadness. It's not goodbye, Zara. It's just until next time. She smiled weakly, her voice breaking softly. I'm holding you to that. We leaned close, embracing gently. The world around us faded momentarily, warmth and comfort flowing between us. Zara whispered softly, Thank you for everything, Jake. I smiled warmly, holding her tightly. The pleasure and chaos was all mine. Slowly we parted, Zara gently touching my cheek before stepping back. She took a deep breath, smiling bravely. Until next time, Jake. Until next time, I whispered softly, watching as she slowly walked away. As Zara disappeared through the doorway, an ache filled my chest. Yet alongside the sadness was gratitude. Gratitude for every crazy, chaotic moment we'd shared. After a quiet moment alone, I stepped back behind the bar, glancing at the glowing crystals Zara had left behind. Picking one up gently, I held it close, smiling faintly. Marcus approached slowly, concerned. You okay, Jake? I nodded gently, still staring at the crystal. Yeah, Marcus, just processing. He smiled sympathetically, resting a comforting hand on my shoulder. Hey, if it helps, no one's ever had a crazier romance story. I laughed softly, appreciating his attempt to lighten the mood. You're definitely right about that. Days slowly turned into weeks. The world continued as normal, but for me, everything had changed. Zara's brief appearance had altered my reality forever. After she left, the bar seemed quieter, the nights longer. Each shift I worked was a gentle reminder of the time we'd spent together and how deeply she changed my perspective. Life resumed its familiar routine, but I was different. More reflective, more aware of how quickly extraordinary moments could appear and disappear from our lives. One quiet evening, as I polished glasses and stared blankly at the TV behind the bar, the news caught my attention. A familiar face appeared on screen. It was Rax standing in front of Galactic Scoops, looking oddly proud as the reporter enthusiastically declared it Earth's most popular ice cream shop. I chuckled softly, shaking my head. Guess we're not the only ones whose lives were changed by Zara. Suddenly, the bar's entrance opened gently. My heart instantly quickened as Zara stepped inside, smiling warmly. For a second, I couldn't believe it, convinced my mind was playing tricks. But it was really her, standing there with those galaxy-filled eyes and her soft, glowing smile. Jake, she whispered warmly, walking toward me. I quickly rounded the counter, embracing her tightly, overwhelmed by relief. You came back. She laughed softly, nodding against my shoulder. Did you really think I'd stay away forever? Pulling back gently, I smiled into her eyes. Honestly, I wasn't sure. Galactic Council sounded pretty intimidating. She giggled softly. They were, but turns out Rax gave them a glowing recommendation for you. I raised an eyebrow skeptically. Really? Rax did that? She laughed again, eyes twinkling mischievously. Well, mostly he credited your karaoke machine, but close enough. I laughed warmly, shaking my head. I owe that karaoke machine a medal. We sat quietly at the bar, enjoying the calm familiarity. Zara looked around, eyes gentle. Jake, you've really become a bit famous back home, you know? They call you the bartender who saved a galaxy with karaoke. I chuckled lightly, embarrassed but amused. I guess there are worse reputations. She smiled gently, touching my hand softly. I missed you, Jake. I squeezed her hand tightly. You have no idea how much I missed you too. The door opened again, and this time Zara's mother walked in gracefully, smiling warmly. Zara stood quickly, surprised but pleased. Mother? What brings you here? She looked at us gently. I've come to understand something. Perhaps my daughter's happiness matters more than council regulations. After your impressive handling of that near catastrophe, Jake, the Galactic Council has decided to make a rare exception. Zara has permission to stay longer if she chooses. I stared in disbelief, happiness flooding me instantly. Zara looked stunned, eyes filling with joyful tears. Mother, thank you. Her mother nodded gently. Just promise me, no more galaxy endangering beverages. I laughed softly, nodding quickly. Absolutely, nothing but boring, stable drinks from now on. She smiled warmly. Good, then I trust you both. With a gracious nod, she stepped back, allowing Zara and me a private moment. We turned toward each other, hearts racing. Zara smiled gently. Jake, this is the happiest I've ever been. I cupped her face gently. Me too, Zara. I never imagined finding love would involve nearly destroying the universe. But I wouldn't change it. She laughed softly, leaning into me. Neither would I. The evening drifted peacefully. Regular customers arrived, noticing Zara warmly. Nate raised his glass cheerfully, calling across the bar, Hey Jake, Zara's back. Does this mean we're safe? I laughed, raising a reassuring thumbs up. Safe and completely stable. Cheers and laughter filled the room, and Zara blushed softly, squeezing my hand tightly. Marcus soon appeared with another box of chocolates, joking warmly. Regular Earth chocolate, I promise. Welcome back, Zara. We laughed gently, Zara taking the chocolates gratefully. She leaned toward me, whispering warmly, Your planet is amazing. I smiled tenderly. It's even better with you here. The bar buzzed with warmth and laughter, the perfect soundtrack to our quiet, renewed connection. Eventually, Zara stood gracefully, stepping toward the karaoke machine. She smiled playfully, challenging gently. Care for a duet, Jake? Just for old time's sake? I laughed softly, shaking my head. Only if you promise the universe survives this performance. She giggled, holding out her hand. I promise, no galaxy-threatening emotions, just a simple duet. Taking her hand gently, I stood beside her. The karaoke machine buzzed softly to life, waiting patiently. Zara selected a song titled Across the Universe. It felt fitting. Our voices blended quietly, gently, filling the bar with warmth and laughter. Everyone listened quietly, smiles spreading across their faces. It wasn't the performance itself, but the sincerity and simple joy behind it that touched everyone there. As we finished, applause erupted warmly. Zara smiled shyly, leaning close. Not exactly professional singers, are we? I laughed gently, squeezing her hand. No, but who needs perfection when we've got this? Later, standing beneath the stars outside, Zara gently rested her head against my shoulder, her voice soft, reflective. You know, Jake, I think humans underestimate how powerful love really is. I nodded gently, smiling warmly. Maybe, but thanks to you, I'll never underestimate it again. She looked up softly, her eyes bright beneath the stars. Promise? I smiled tenderly, touching her cheek softly. I promise. Zara sighed contentedly, eyes closing gently as she whispered, "Then I guess happy hour isn't canceled after all." I laughed warmly, holding her tightly. Nope. In fact, I'd say it just became permanent. In the weeks following Zara's return, life found a new rhythm, one filled with laughter, quiet moments, and evenings beneath the stars. Zara had seamlessly become a cherished part of not just my life, but of everyone around us. Regular customers knew her by name, greeting her warmly, sharing stories as though she'd always been there. But despite the joy, a quiet unease lingered at the back of my mind. How long could this last? Eventually, Zara would have to face her home, her responsibilities. The Galactic Council might have been lenient once, but could we truly escape forever? One peaceful night after the bar closed, Zara and I sat quietly at a small table by the window, holding cups of coffee, safe, ordinary coffee. Zara's eyes looked distant, filled with thoughts. "Everything okay?" I asked gently, sensing her concern. She sighed softly, eyes meeting mine with quiet honesty. "Jake, we've been incredibly lucky, but I know my time here is running out." My heart sank, though I'd expected this moment. "I hoped we'd have more time." She smiled sadly. "Me too, but the council summoned me today. They reminded me that my duty is to Orion 6. I have to leave tomorrow morning." The quiet weight of her words settled between us, but I nodded slowly. "Then let's make tonight unforgettable." Zara's eyes sparkled warmly, her hand reaching for mine. "I wouldn't want it any other way." We spent the next hours walking quietly through the sleeping city, hand in hand beneath the softly glowing streetlights. Zara watched everything with tenderness, carefully committing each detail to memory. Eventually, we reached a small park overlooking the city skyline, illuminated by countless twinkling lights. Zara leaned against me, voice soft and reflective. "Jake, do you think emotions are universal? That across galaxies, across different worlds, we all feel the same?" I squeezed her hand gently, considering carefully. "I think love definitely is. After meeting you, I know it." She smiled warmly, eyes glistening softly. "Maybe emotions are what truly connect the universe. Not science, not technology, but feelings." I nodded slowly. "Exactly. Without emotions, life is just empty." She laughed quietly, gently nudging my shoulder. "Careful, Jake. You're starting to sound philosophical." I chuckled softly. "Guess you've rubbed off on me." After a peaceful silence, Zara pulled something from her pocket, a small vial filled with shimmering liquid. "Don't worry," she said quickly, smiling. "It's safe this time." I eyed it cautiously. "Galaxy tears again?" She nodded shyly. "This batch has been purified, stabilized. On Orion 6, we use it during special farewells." "Farewells?" I asked softly, feeling my heart tighten. She gently uncorked the vial. "We share it to bond memories permanently, to never forget." Carefully, Zara poured a tiny amount into each coffee cup. The liquid blended gently, swirling with soft silver colors, perfectly calm and harmless. Raising her cup softly, Zara's voice trembled gently. "To memories that last forever." I gently clinked my cup against hers. "And to love across the universe." As we sipped, warmth filled my chest. Not explosive, but deeply comforting. I suddenly felt profoundly connected to Zara, as though we shared a quiet, invisible bond bridging galaxies. She smiled softly, setting her cup down. "Now we're linked, Jake. Our memories, emotions, and bond. Nothing can break it." I gently touched her cheek, speaking softly. "Not even distance?" "Not even distance," she whispered gently. We stayed quietly, savoring the peaceful bond, the city sprawling gently beneath us. Eventually, Zara spoke softly, regretfully. "It's nearly dawn. I have to prepare." I nodded, heart heavy but determined. "I'll go with you." Hand in hand, we walked slowly back to Zara's ship. Morning approached gently, sky turning shades of gold and pink, matching the delicate emotions within us. Her ship sat waiting, sleek and silent in the soft morning light. Zara paused quietly beside the entrance, turning slowly toward me, her eyes shimmering gently. "Jake, Meeting you was the best accident of my life. I'll carry our memories everywhere. I smiled gently, taking both her hands softly. Same here, Zara. You changed my world. And I know this isn't goodbye, it's until next time. She nodded, eyes glistening softly with tears. Until next time. We embraced gently, emotions quietly blending between us. Slowly, she stepped back, eyes locked with mine. Stay safe, Jake, and keep Earth's beverages under control. I laughed softly through tears. Promise. With a final gentle wave, Zara stepped aboard her ship. Quietly, the vessel lifted, shimmering gently before vanishing silently into the sky. I stood quietly, watching as morning brightened fully. The city awoke, unaware of how much had quietly changed overnight. Returning to the bar, I found Marcus waiting quietly, concern etched softly across his face. Jake? Zara? Did she leave? I nodded slowly, smiling bravely. For now, but she'll be back someday. Marcus rested a comforting hand on my shoulder, voice gentle. You okay? I smiled faintly, looking upward at the sky. Yeah, better than okay, because even though she's far away, I feel closer to her than ever. Marcus nodded quietly, understanding. Love's a powerful thing. I sighed softly, smiling warmly. It's stronger than distance, stronger than galaxies. Weeks turned into months after Zara's departure. Life at the bar had resumed its old rhythm, yet nothing ever felt quite the same again. Zara had left a permanent mark, transforming my simple existence into something far richer. The memories of our brief but powerful adventure lingered everywhere, hidden in familiar songs and quiet moments, and most vividly in the shimmering crystal she'd left behind. Customers would occasionally ask about her, smiling warmly when I assured them she'd return one day. Nate even joked about galaxy-proofing the drinks, making everyone laugh. Yet beneath every laugh, every story, was a gentle ache of longing, one I'd grown used to. Then on a quiet evening exactly 1 year after Zara's departure, as I wiped down the bar, the front door chimed softly. My heart skipped immediately as Zara's mother gracefully stepped inside, approaching me with warmth. Jake, she said softly, smiling gently. It's good to see you. I returned the smile warmly, though curiosity filled me instantly. Likewise, is everything all right? She nodded gently. Zara sends her love. She's fine, though she misses you terribly. In fact, that's partly why I'm here. My heart quickened. Is Zara okay? She smiled reassuringly. She's perfectly safe, but the Council has reconsidered their decision about intergalactic interactions. After observing the positive impact Zara's time here had, not only on her, but on Earth, they've decided to allow more freedom. My eyes widened in disbelief. What does that mean? It means, she explained gently, Zara can return permanently if she chooses, and she's already made her decision. Before I could speak, the door chimed again. Zara stepped through quietly, eyes glowing brightly, a gentle smile spreading warmly across her face. Jake, she whispered softly, stepping quickly toward me. Instantly, I was beside her, heart racing joyfully as we embraced tightly. Warmth flooded me, relief and joy blending perfectly. Zara, you came back. She laughed softly, nodding gently. Of course, didn't you promise me we'd meet again? Absolutely, I whispered warmly, smiling tenderly into her eyes. And I always keep my promises. Zara's mother watched warmly, quietly stepping back. I'll leave you two alone now. Welcome home, Zara. As she gracefully departed, Zara and I stood quietly together, absorbing the reality of this moment. Eventually, Zara spoke gently, eyes shining softly. You waited for me, Jake. Why? I smiled gently, brushing her cheek softly. Because some things are worth waiting forever. She blushed gently, her smile glowing warmly. I missed this planet. I missed you. I squeezed her hand softly. And I missed you every single day. Quietly, I led her back toward the bar, where familiar faces now watched with joyful surprise. Marcus grinned widely, calling out warmly, Zara's back! Does this mean happy hours finally restored? We laughed softly, Zara nodding playfully. Definitely restored, But this time, no dangerous cocktails. Everyone cheered warmly, laughter filling the air. For the first time in a long while, everything felt complete again. As the night continued gently, Zara and I found ourselves standing beneath the stars once more, hand in hand. She gazed thoughtfully upward, voice gentle, reflective. Jake, remember when I asked if emotions are universal? I smiled softly, nodding gently. Of course. She looked at me warmly. Now I'm certain. Love doesn't just bridge distances. It connects galaxies, worlds, everything. I squeezed her hand gently, feeling deeply grateful. And it brought you home. She leaned closer, her voice gentle, soft, filled with quiet wonder. Home. I like that. We stood quietly together beneath a universe filled with possibilities, knowing that despite all we'd faced, cosmic police, emotional beverages, intergalactic separations, love had guided us back together, stronger than ever. Eventually, Zara softly whispered, eyes glistening gently. You know, Jake, I think the universe always knew we'd end up here. I smiled tenderly, heart filled with warmth. Me too. After all, who can argue with the universe? She laughed softly, resting her head gently against my shoulder. Certainly not us. And standing there quietly beneath the vast, endless sky, Zara and I finally understood one undeniable truth. Love, in all its chaos and wonder, truly was the universe's greatest adventure.